All right. Well, my name is Jose Rodriguez, and over the next few minutes, I'll be talking about Michael Fullan and his triple I model in change management, specifically in the world of education. I'll first say not only did the triple I model resonate, Michael Fullan's body of work in general resonated with me as the scope of his work is just massive in the world of education. While I'm happy to have stumbled upon his work and him in general, I'm sad it took me so long to find him. I've read several articles and watched several interviews from Michael Fullan, and I plan on continuing my review of his work as he's contributed a lot to the world of education. Michael Fullan's work, specifically the Triple I model, resonates most with me because it reflects how I view leadership, learning, and organizational transformation in general. Throughout my career in healthcare education, I've learned that successful change shouldn't focus on just technologies, policies, or mandates, and it's more about the actual people. And that's really the hardest part. Fullen emphasizes on relationships, capacity building, collaboration, continuous improvement, and that aligns closely with my belief that leaders, especially in education and in healthcare, must support individuals through change rather than just simply direct or orchestrate it. As someone who struggled during my own learning challenges as a child and struggled in my transition into healthcare once upon a time, developed a deep empathy for clinician learners who face insecurities and anxieties. Fullen's work speaks to my commitment to creating environments where people feel supported, empowered, and capable of being more than they currently are. My learners are clinicians, and spending close to 30 years in healthcare, I found that firsthand experience and seeing the change from small workflow optimizations to more larger, widespread organizational change, like adoption of an electronic medical record system or enterprise resource program that clinicians and administrative personnel need to use to perform their jobs daily. Most change initiatives leave people involved in the midst of chaos and confusion and forces them to accept this new reality or leave the organization. Fulton spent at least 20 plus years of the 1900s focused on why change and processes fail, and at least 20 plus years focused on the researching what works and sharing those best practices, which has influenced educational reform around the world. So Michael Fullan is an educational researcher and authority in the field of education. He's much more than that as well. He was born in Ontario, Canada in 1940 and is still thriving, sharing the gospel of educational reform. He was given the title of Professor Emeritus, honorary title given to him, recognizing his distinguished career and accomplishments in the field of education. And he holds honorary doctorates from universities in the United States, Canada, Hong Kong, England, and Scotland. He's been involved in many publications, published research articles and over 30 books, and was a special policy advisor in education to the Premier of Ontario from 2004 to 2013. So the triple I model, the key features of this model of theory are broken down into three sections, which are initiation, implementation, and institutionalization. And the initiation phase, the beginning phase where innovation is decided upon and why the change is needed. This is also the phase where the itemization of what specifically needs to change is identified. It is also when buy-in is obtained from those affected stakeholders and making sure that they're engaged throughout this process and early on. This is an important phase as it sets the stage for the innovation or the change to occur. The implementation stage, this is the stage where the change is actually rolled out and used. This is where teachers and learners start adjusting and going through the expected turbulence from learning to do something new or different. This is the most critical stage as the implementation needs to account for how effective stakeholders communicate those challenges, leverage support provided by change leaders. Flexibility is required during the stage to ensure that applied pressure is there to change it is positive and is also accepted. And the institutionalization, that's basically making it a day-to-day practice. This is the stage when the change becomes absorbed into our standard practices. Policies and practices or procedures are normalized and outcomes are realized. The triple I model is important to change agents because it simplifies what can be a highly complex process of change. It shows where most change ultimately fails and is during the implementation phases. I believe that this occurs when it finally hits those who are involved in the change that something's changing. The new technology, innovation, or change in general actually occurs. This is the phase where change agents have to consider how to account for feedback and measure outcomes to ensure that the change that is being implemented is effective. The implementation dip accounts for the reality of the change, where things get worse before they get better. And that is due to the learning curve of those involved and the friction from their natural tendencies to revert to old practices. It also focuses on sustainability in the institutionalization phase. Policies, procedures, and just basic practices are aligned, creating a new culture as a result. People start seeing results, and the why materializes in their day-to-day operations. Lastly, a phrase that he coined, simplexity, simplifying a complex process by focusing on one area at a time. So Fulton's been a part or involved in many frameworks that either boasted his core change theory. Fullan worked on deep learning in his book, Engage the World and Change the World. It's changing how academia views competencies from this academic obsession of test scores, grades, and things like that to shift towards the 6 C's, which are character, the developing of growth mindset, which is foundational for all other competencies, citizenship, the communication and interaction in ways that is respectful, advancing your fellow human, and exhibiting core traits such as empathy and responsibility. Collaboration, focused on the greater good and not just self-serving. Communication, being intentional in our expressed thought across audiences and contexts. Creativity, thinking outside of the status quo and the ways things have always been done. And critical thinking, advanced reasoning, problem solving, and overall evaluation of evidence. And these competencies have not been adopted globally, but where they have been, there's been measurable growth in learner engagement and deep learning, which is the ultimate goal of instruction, not just passing a test. So I have some references to for those who are interested in learning more of where I pulled some of this information from. And while I'll admit that to only scratching the surface of the work in change theory and educational reform, as indicated by Michael Fullan, I've learned so much and will continue my review of his work to bolster my own understanding and impact in education. In the meanwhile, I'd love to hear more from you and what you have learned about Fullan or your favorite change theorists in the world of education. Thank you.